We're at the Seattle Antiquarian Book Fair on October 11th, 2009. I'm Taylor Bowie, and I'm sitting here speaking with my old and dear friend Roger Gozdecki, who for many years owned and operated the bookshop in, is it Covina or West Covina? Covina, yes. California, and who nowadays operates as Anthology Rare Books in Pasadena. Roger, thank you for joining me for this little interview.
Thank you, Taylor. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, good. First of all, let's hear a little bit about your background, your family, where you were born, where you grew up.
I am a native Californian, but my father was in the U.S. Air Force, and in 12 years of public schooling through high school, I went to 10 different schools, all through California, the Southwest, New Mexico, Texas, and then I attended Whittier College. I was going to be a teacher, and found after 5 years of my own education that I didn't want to provide for anybody else's. So I was
planning to learn yourself.
Yes.
Well, was that the point you first became involved with the book trade in some way?
Pretty much. When I was 15, in my high school literature book, I came across a poem. It was Buffalo Bill's defunct and used to ride a water-smooth silver stallion and shoot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pigeons, just like that. Jesus, he was a handsome man. And what I want to know is, how do you like your baby boy, Mr. Death? That was E.E. Cummings, and I fell in love with him. And even before I knew what a first edition was, I knew because he was no longer alive that I wanted to own a copy of one of his books that was the way it was when he first published it.
This is a book you discovered in a... did you then go to a secondhand bookstore to find it, or...?
I bought Cummings as secondhand copies, but when I was 21 for Christmas in 1979, 22 actually, I gave myself a present, and that was a copy of The Enormous Room, the first edition that I ever bought.
You recall who you bought that from?
Absolutely. Charles Jimenez, who owned the little old bookshop in Whittier. In the late 70s, Whittier was a great used bookshop town. There were 7 used bookshops within a block or two of one another.
Tell us what some of those were.
There was the Family Bookshop on Comstock. There was the most famous one was Harry Ames' shop on Greenleaf, and it was a big rambling building, and they had the portraits of authors that were done by some artist in Vermont that Harry had found. And for many people, that was the quintessential used bookshop. That was lost during the Whittier Narrows quake in '87.
Who else?
Ron and Dot Anderson, who were members of the ABA.
Were they Ron Dot booksellers?
Ron and Dot booksellers,
yes.
Yeah. And Ron passed away from a heart attack shortly after the Whittier Narrows quake.
Yeah. Who else?
Rudy Valdez, who was a bookbinder, retired from the Santa Fe Springs School District. I think that runs the gamut. But it was with Chuck, who was always running a sort of jagged line above legal and illegal that I became friends, and he actively sought out books for me.
I see.
And when he opened up the shop in Covina, I went to work for him part-time.
What year would that have been?
That was 1981, the spring of 1981.
Now, were you still in school, or were you out of school?
I had left school, yes.
Altogether. Did you get a degree in education, or did you just leave, like I did?
I left.
Yes. I identify with that. And I left to work in the book trade, too. So. How long did you work for Rudy?
Chuck, I worked for him. After about 6 months, he asked me if I would come to work for him full-time and manage that shop in Covina. I managed that shop for 5 years. During that time, I got married. had a son, and we made Chuck an offer on the shop, and I bought it from him.
What name did he operate the shop under?
His shop in Whittier was the Little Old Bookshop.
Little Old Bookshop. And
So
the
we
shop in
simply
Covina.
call it was the bookshop.
Okay, I always wondered where that name came from. And there was something that you inherited. Okay.
And because I'd inherited it, I turned it into the bookshop, first class, secondhand books.
Right, I remember. Excellent slogan.
Yeah.
Now tell us again, what year was that?
It was. I went to work for him full time. Actually, it would have been 1982 full time, and then we purchased it from him in 1986.
And it just continued the same
Just
kind of operation?
just continued the same operation.
What was it like entering the book trade on your own at that time? Did you feel kind of comfortable about the idea of it, or were you...
Well, you know, I had been scouting, and Chuck was smart enough to realize that the best way to keep me was to let me scout, and he let me consign books to the shop.
Excellent.
And I was making more money for my consignments than he was paying me. But it was a great education and
Profitable for both of you.
Profitable for both of us, yes.
Yeah, that's good. At that time, were there other people in the area that you considered, besides the ones you've already mentioned in the Whittier area, other people in the trade who were kind of role models and mentors, anyone else who sort of was giving you a boost in those early days?
Well, Jim Lorson from Fullerton would patronize the shop. Ed Thomas from Book Carnival.
Book Carnival, I remember Ed very well. Very
And
nice man.
yep, and Bob Dagg, who was working for Maury Neville at the
Yes.
time, came in often, and Bob was always very nice and helpful, and he treated you with respect,
Absolutely.
which was very important. And he said, you know, I've got to have Maury come here because you have some really nice books, and that meant a lot to me.
Yeah, that's good. You know, Bob was in Seattle.
Yes, I understand that, and you arranged for him to go to work for
I did.
Ken Carmiel at this book fair, wasn't
And
it?
eventually, when Jim Pepper left, employee of Maury Neville, Bob took his place. A little urge from me. So I think very highly of Bob, as everybody does in the trade. You had this open shop in Covina for many years. It took you a long time in this open shop environment before you decided to apply for membership in the Antiquarian Booksellers Association.
Yes.
Can you just elaborate on why that was?
2 words: peer review.
Okay. Well, now we have the 2 words, and as Paul Harvey said, now we want the rest of the story.
Well, you know, I think that most booksellers by nature are not joiners. And you know, the first good book I ever had was a wonderful copy of Call of the Wild in the Dust Jacket.
That's a nice book.
When Maury came down to buy it from me in 1984, he wanted a 30% discount on it. I had it priced $1,000. I said, well, gee, Maury, I'll give you $25. And he bought it from me. And the following week, I was standing at his booth from about 10 yards away when I watched him sell that book for $4,000.
Well, that would give one pause.
But I said, I should be doing this.
Yes.
But it took me another 10 years to join the ABAA because I just couldn't get over that hump of having my peers in the trade sit in judgment on.
I know. I had the same reaction when I was thinking of joining in 1981. So I know how you feel. How did your business change after you joined the ABAA?
I think most profoundly in that it brought me into the larger professional community of sellers.
But you had, of course, one thing people always mention is the benefit of membership is being able to do book fairs. Had you done other book fairs
Yes.
in the area?
Yes.
Mostly in Southern California?
Yes. Southern California and Sacramento. The first ABA fair was in connection with the iLab Congress, which was in Los Angeles, and then the fair was in San Francisco, and that was the fall of 1996. And to do a whole month's worth of business in 3 days was just outstanding.
It's a revelation.
Yeah.
Doesn't always happen that way, but it's nice when it does. So that was the year you joined, was 1996?
Yes, it was the year I was admitted to membership, yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, within just a few years of that, we saw the sneaking tentacles, and I don't mean that necessarily disparagingly, but the increase of the internet in our business. Can you just give me some thoughts and impressions about how you either resisted or grabbed a hold of the potential of the internet, and how does it work into your business today?
Well, I've always had good staff people, a long series of them, but at that time, a man named Chris George was working for me, and a younger man named Brad Johnson, and both of those were part of the generation who had, first become literate with computers.
Right. I remember Chris too.
And I was able to turn all that over to them, and they.
We're on film here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Terribly sorry.
Can we run that back or anything?
Just edit it out.
Yeah.
That is. So, you got to edit that out too, please. Sorry.
Take two, and we're rolling.
There's a spot on his tie. Throw out the tape.
But
Okay.
I was pretty much able to leave that to them, and they took advantage of all the things eBay and plus one of the best $135 I ever spent was at the Colorado Book Seminar. That was back when Dick Weatherford was on it, and he sold an hour of his consulting time at the auction. That was one of the auction items, and I bought it. And it was Dick who really helped me bring me up to speed.
Well, certainly I should add that Dick Weatherford has mentored a lot of people in the trade in one way or another, particularly me. He and I were business partners for several years in the 90s. Mm-hmm. Dick's a great friend of everybody in the trade. Eventually, did you start to do book fairs outside of California then? Or?
I have, some of the regional fairs. I did fairs in Las Vegas. I did in 2000 and 2005. I did the New York Book Fair. I sold as much as the fair cost me to do it.
That's not an unfamiliar story, I'm afraid, with a lot of us in the trade. Not everyone, fortunately. As you watched your younger employees who were maybe more internet or techno-savvy than you, did you start to see that the role of the shop, the open shop, became less important over a period of time? Did you begin to see the internet and the mail order and other things start to take over from, say, the through the
Absolutely,
door? Yeah.
absolutely. And it was at that same time that we began to notice a decline in foot traffic. And what was really going on, of course, was there was a generational shift from people who were reading books to people who don't. Also, in Southern California, there was this huge shift in the population from being predominantly white middle class, especially in the San Gabriel Valley where we were, to only 25-30% white middle class. And that was our local customer base that all moved away.
Right. So a combination of a changing demographic and changing technology and everything. Did all of these, I assume, led up to your decision to sell your original shop known as the Book Shop? What year did you do that?
2006.
2006.
And at that time, we had moved to the West Los Angeles, our residence, and I was making an 80-mile round trip, 6 days a week, across Los Angeles County. It would take me anywhere from 45 minutes to 3 hours. and I just couldn't do it anymore. The overhead was too high. The business was foundering. I had to do something different, and I was looking at closing the shop.
What happened instead?
Brad Johnson, my best customer,
And your longtime
and my longtime employee. Brad had actually moved on. He was working in with a political consulting firm. He got involved in the Kerry campaign in 2004.
I didn't know that.
And discovered that he had a real flair for it. So,
a little editorializing, good for him.
and it was an education for him. I saw him grow tremendously.
I had no idea. Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
To you.
But he was working with me, helping me at the Santa Monica Book Fair, and I was telling him that I was going to be closing the store in October. And he talked to his partner, Jen Zabriskie, and came back to me and said, "How would you like to sell it to me?" And so that's what.
Wonderful case of mentoring in the trade.
Yes.
Which I wish there was more of.
Yes.
That is great.
I'm very fortunate that it worked out that way.
So you turned the operation of the bookshop, the ownership of the bookshop, over to him, and then you immediately reincarnated as Anthology.
As Anthology Rare Books, yes.
And tell us about that operation.
Well, I left the shop after 26 years with 250 books for sale.
Yes.
I have about 400 now, but that's a perfectly good number.
Isn't it? Yes, it is. I understand. Let's leave it to the younger people who want huge inventories.
Because the whole object is to make more money and sell fewer books.
Exactly. Fewer and books that sell more quickly, too, rather than the old days where we waited for people to come in and find them.
Right.
And,
Right.
now we have so many different ways for people to find them.
Yes.
So, you're still doing book fairs, obviously.
Yes.
Here you are in
Here I am in Seattle as an exhibitor for the first time.
We just have a few minutes, but does one book or one purchase or one incident in your time in the book trade stand out as being just one of the happiest things that ever happened? Was there some great sale or great discovery or something you remember very fondly?
Two things come to mind. The first story I could tell quickly was I once got a call from the Goodwill Central Processing Center in Los Angeles, and they wanted me to come in once or twice a week and purchase the books that they could not use put out for their stores. I could go through them, pick out what I wanted, and for $6 a box, and that was a U-Haul, 1.5 kilograms, I could take away whatever I wanted. We would get books by the garbage bin full to sort through. Among those, once, was a tortilla flat, the Grosset and Dunlap edition. Cracked hinge, no jacket, but it contained what Stanford University has told me is the longest inscription that John Steinbeck ever put in a book. And that went into the box along with everything else for $6 a box.
My oh my! Well, that is a lovely discovery. Would you say that things are going under this new incarnation kind of the way you wanted? I mean, not maybe as in generally the right direction.
Generally in the right direction. It's really hard sometimes to stay focused on the essentials, but on the other hand, you have so much time to learn about the books you want to learn about, and that aspect of it has been just wonderful.
Easier for one-on-one contact with customers too, I assume. Again, the disadvantage of the shop is all the distractions.
Yes.
And,
although, one thing I will say about the internet, it's extremely difficult to convert the internet buyer to a regular customer, even if you specialize in things that they collect.
I've noticed that as well. I'm not sure why that is. Perhaps we need to consult with our younger
I think
colleagues.
They prefer the anonymity of it.
I do too. I think that's part of it.
And I also think they want to go on the internet and see what's available at that time at the best price. And that's the way they buy.
Do you get email messages, as I do these days, that are serious questions about books, but they'll just be signed with a person's first name, or not even signed at all. I find that...
Yes, that happens.
Yeah, so that's a very interesting thing that I don't think any of the other people I've spoken with have touched on, is the attraction for some people of the anonymity of dealing on the internet.
And God knows, at the same time, those people who are doing that, they probably have these Facebook pages and 5,000 friends,
but it's a different thing. Who are some of the people in the book trade today that you think?
Well, if I were going to name a bookseller that I would most like to be when I grow up,
yes, that's a good way to look at it.
That would be Bill Reese. I think Bill is outstanding, and he is someone that I am genuinely in awe of. He has transcended the trade. Last spring, I got a brochure from the Library of America. I look at it. Board of Directors, Bill Reese. I mean, he knew he wanted to be a bookseller. He trained for it. He has become a scholar, the authority in the field. He may very well be the most important bookseller of his generation.
But you hit on something, the scholarship, which, let's face it, not all booksellers have much a degree of scholarship.
Or care about it.
Or care, yeah. But Bill covers the whole thing.
Yep.
Absolutely right. Yep. You're known in the trade for many things. One of them being a predilection to wear suspenders. Would you mind just opening your jacket so we can see the pink suspenders?
Pink suspenders, yes.
They're very attractive. Now, can you tell us why do you wear pink suspenders?
Why does a fireman wear red suspenders? Oldest suspender joke there is.
And why does a chicken cross the road?
To hold his pants up.
Hold his pants up.
But I tell you, I wore belts for 30 years, and not once did anybody ever come up and say, geez, that's a great-looking belt.
Great-looking belt, yeah.
You wear a pair of suspenders, and people comment on them all the time. They're chick magnets. And at an auction, when the auctioneer says, sold to the short fat man wearing the penguin suspenders, everybody knows who you are.
It's a form of identification. I like that. Well, you wear them well, as they say. Any final thoughts about yourself, about the book trade in general? Where do you think it's going? Are we in good shape for the future?
I think that answer is unknown, but I think also that, in all this talk about the death of the book, books will survive, but they will survive in the way that ballet has survived. They will survive in the way that opera has survived. That is, it will still be appreciated. They will still be appreciated by a small group of people, but they will be increasingly irrelevant to the vast majority of people.
Well, the nice thing about our end of the trade is we've always been dealing with a very small number of people anyway. And, one thing that I'm curious about, I don't think I've asked anyone else this question directly. We usually talk about the positive things. What do you think, what's wrong, if anything, with the rare book business today?
I think that what's wrong is that we are all so focused on being rare book dealers that we've lost sight of being in the rare book collector business. And that is, we need to do more to educate and to nurture book collecting.
Do you have any ideas about that?
I think we need to do more scholarship. I think when we catalog books, we need to talk more about them and tell why they are significant, why they are worth collecting. And I think we need to do more to put books in the hands of people, to expose them to them, to take advantage of opportunities through talks at libraries or at new bookstores about rare books. Because I think when people see these things, whatever they are, they will resonate with them.
So the decline of the retail bookshop, that's one of the things that's added to the problem of people not being able to handle them. So therefore the role of the book fair will continue to maybe even expand, do you think?
Well, book fairs face economic challenges of their own.
Absolutely.
but the role of the book fair is very important, and I wish book fair promoters would do more to use the book fair as an occasion
Yes.
to host special programming,
Exactly.
centering around the book and around educating collectors.
I think we're going to see more of that in the future. Programs tying it in with some other civic event or something of that nature.
I'm on the committee for the Los Angeles Book Fair. This is the second fair that I've been on the committee for, and we're trying to do that. And it surprises me that in New York, partly because it's Sandy Smith's fair, that they do nothing at all for that.
No, those who aren't prepared to change are not going to be around all that long. Good. I don't know. I can't say anything else. I don't want to. Just curious, when we added that thing on, is that going to be at the end, or can you put it back into?
I can put it back.
Okay, good. All right. Well, let me just see if there's anything else. Let's just run by them. How did we get started? We did that. I already figured how life's changed. You don't have to drive so much. Best customer, the Steinbeck book stories. Great. What took you so long? Pink suspenders. Grow up. What's wrong? Quotes about the trade. Family, education, getting into the trade, early memories, tutors, internet. Oh, okay, I have one here. One left. Okay, so we have a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, just kick me or something when we're getting close. Okay.
We're rolling.
If some bright-eyed young person wanted to enter the book trade today, as you and I did years ago, would you have advice for them, either encouragement or discouragement, or what would you tell someone wanting to enter the book trade today?
I would tell them to get as much exposure to the spectrum of books, of collectible books, as they can. I would also tell them to take advantage of whatever opportunities they have, like through Rare Book School in Virginia, or now California Rare Book School, to learn this specialized knowledge, because it will just become more and more arcane as fewer and fewer people know it.
Well, you and I both started in kind of the same fashion by working for an established bookseller. In my case, several of them. And there are fewer opportunities like that.
That's right. That's right.
You're right.
But on the other hand, the barriers to entrance in the trade are now non-existent. You just buy a few books at auction and catalog them well and put them up on the internet, and you're a bookseller.
You throw together a logo and a web page in about a half hour. And, right.
But just do. There is a practice to the trade. There's a right way to do things and not. And learn the right way. Learn that you don't make repairs to a book and don't disclose them. Learn that a book needs to be collated and needs to be complete.
Or it needs to be noted.
Yeah. Learn the difference in grades of condition and how that translates practically into the condition of a book.
And don't ever say a book's in good condition for its age.
Yeah.
Say that about your fellow booksellers, but not about the books. So there is a future. And
Yes.
And you
absolutely.
And you intend to be part of it.
They're going to have to drag me out with my in papers.
No plans to retire.
No plans to retire.
Glad to hear that. Thank you, Roger. It's been fun.
Thank you, Taylor. It's been great to talk to you.